Wrapping up the joint practices from Minnesota and that preseason game upcoming, we will preview it with the Minnesota Vikings week 2 of the exhibition season notes and getting into the chat on today's live episode of Locked On 49ers coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Elias. Their app lets you access team and player stats, head-to-head team comparisons. Give yourself the edge this NFL season. Find Elias Game Plan in the App Store or Play Store today. Thanks, everyone, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. What's up to everybody already jumping into the live chat? Crock, there's a couple of notes I think that we both want to talk about. One, receiver in particular, and maybe some defensive backs at practice with the joint practices on Thursday here as the 49ers get ready for Saturday's preseason contest with the Minnesota Vikings. Trey Lance not playing at quarterback in week 2 of the preseason, should be back for week 3 of the preseason, and we'll see what that looks like as a dress rehearsal for the regular season in a quick turnaround coming back Thursday for the 49ers to play preseason week number 3. But I want to start here because I don't just when we thought, man, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, I'm kind of joking about this, but just when we thought Brandon Aiyuk was out of Kyle Shanahan's doghouse, did you hear his comments after practice on Thursday?
Yes, I did. He said that the joint practices are a waste of time.
Yeah, hold on. Actually, let's play the audio for the folks out there so they can hear it. This is Brandon Aiyuk right after practice being asked what he thought of the joint practices with the Vikings.
We can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway.
I just thought it was delayed.
Okay. No, it's funny because he gets asked the question. He's like, "What'd you guys think about this practice?" And he's like, "It was good work." And you can tell he wants to say something else, but he doesn't. It's like, "It was good work." To be honest, it was really boring. I don't really think.
Yeah. Well, his initial reaction, he kind of was just you could see, like when they asked him the question, it was like he didn't want to say it, but then he just couldn't hold it in any longer. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Basically, he's like, it's kind of a waste of time, which is hilarious because, and look, speak your mind, whatever. I like that he's being honest, but sometimes maybe you got to keep that close to the vest. And apparently, Brandon Aiyuk didn't have the greatest practice, so maybe he was going through the motions a little bit, and that was the thing that Kyle Shanahan. That's what got him in the doghouse in the first place. Not so much that you think it's worthless practice, which you should never feel that way, probably, if you ask Kyle Shanahan, but the preparation aspect of it for Brandon Aiyuk is, I think, what held him back for Kyle Shanahan. And he was all about the preparation this year. But, going through the motions in practice isn't really a good look if that's indeed what Brandon Aiyuk was doing out there. But I want to take you back a couple of preseasons ago because Kyle Shanahan feels the opposite about joint practices. And this is where Kyle might have a word with Aiyuk or might not like that sentiment from Brandon Aiyuk about that. This was the quote from Kyle Shanahan, I believe it was 2019 or 2020 preseason, getting ready for the regular season. And he said, talking about preseason games, he's like, I don't really even like preseason games. And comparing the importance to those two joint practices, Shanahan said he places a lot more value in the practices. He says it's a ton more value. He said after this was a 2-hour practice in Santa Clara when they had a joint practice with, I'm not sure what team it was in this article. Basically, he said, quote, I put more value into what we did today than those preseason games. So Kyle Shanahan thinks the joint practices are the most important thing you can go through in training camp, and he thinks the preseason games aren't that valuable. So Brandon Aiyuk feels very differently, or maybe it was just the vibe that was out there in this one. Maybe they were too nice to each other. There was no big squabbles or anything.
I think there was one today.
Was there one? Okay.
Yeah, there was one today where
you got to have one. Someone's got to throw
a 49er player like almost took a guy to the ground, and one of the Vikings players took offense to it, and then like pulled the 49er guy off and then swung at the 49er guy, and that kind of started a little brawl. But clearly you didn't hear much about it, so it wasn't something that was like a huge deal.
Emiliano says that Brandon Aiyuk alluded that he felt annoyed. He had relatively few targets in practice. Okay, so maybe that's what he was getting at. But
okay, so I've coached kids like
he didn't say that though. He said it was pointless. He didn't say that. He didn't say that it was not enough action for him. The practice were pointless. So that's very different. He might be in a little control of the situation now after the fact if he's throwing that out there.
Yeah, I always relish the opportunity to compete against someone else. So whether it was in practice, whether it was a scrimmage, whether it was preseason, whether it was an actual regular season game, I'm going all out. And I like the opportunity just to compete. So, I don't know Brandon Aiyuk, but you got to get some of that in you where you figure out a way to make everything personal. And then it won't be boring and it won't be pointless because you get to kick somebody else's ass.
That's right. Maybe he wanted to throw punches and was in a way that Kyle Shanahan and Kevin O'Donnell wouldn't allow that to happen before the joint practices even started. Wood Gravy says that linebacker Al Shair said on KMBR that the joint practice was better too. So there you go.
Yeah, it's like, how is it not better? You get like legit work in still a controlled environment where you get to look at an opponent and try to beat them every single rep. And it's like, well, it's not in the game, but you get to learn from your mistakes. I would assume that there's a lot to take away from joint practices from that standpoint. Now, again, you're not scheming up against the other team, and maybe that's the part where it's like, dude, if we're not scheming, I'm just out here running around. Like, how am I getting better? Maybe that's how he feels about it, but I don't know. I just think always the opportunity to go against someone else has always been fun, whether I was playing or coaching.
And aren't you going to get
in scrimmages and stuff like that? And I feel like when you're scrimmaging and coaching or playing, it's just as turned up. Like people want to win. They even want to keep score in that.
Yeah, and they were kind of going through.
You had the soundbite of Kirk Cousins completing a pass in Wednesdays. He completed a pass in Wednesday's practice, and it was like, you like that, right? Like, he's fired up. Yeah. So how does that not get you fired up? I heard I got DM from someone. Jimmy Ward and 49er players were chirping from the sidelines at Kurt Warner, excuse me, definitely not Kurt Warner, Kirk Cousins. So, like, you got a good amount of your players fired up for this. I don't know.
Yeah, remember, was it last year with was it a joint practice with who was it? And the guy, they were talking all kinds of crap about Jimmy G. Was it? I want to say
Broncos.
But it was the Broncos. Okay. Broncos joint practice. Yeah, right.
You know who should be bored out there? And I see our guy Cyber Jeremy in the chat, Nick Bosa, because they couldn't block him. So it might have been boring for him because like, dude, I'm kicking this right tackle's or left tackle's butt every single rep. I'm kicking his butt and I can't sack the quarterback. If it was frustrating or boring to anyone, it would be Nick Bosa because they couldn't block him. It's like, dude, what am I? I'm not getting better. You're not making me better. I'm just kicking your butt. Then I can't even hit the quarterback.
According to our guy, Brad Graham.
Chargers. It was Chargers last year.
Oh, Chargers. Yeah, it was the Chargers group practice that they were talking all kinds of crap to Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. According to Brad Graham, who we hung out with at the practices in Santa Clara, he was also in Minnesota for the practices. He was charting things for Bosa. I think he had him at like 10 sacks over the course of 2 practices, 6 one day and 4 the other. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, yeah. And DG says, put the bubble wrap on Bosa and put him away until week 1. I wholeheartedly agree, for sure. Like, literally, put him in a closet somewhere.
Just have him jog on the sideline.
Like, just jog and have protein shakes. That's it until week 1. Like, there's no need to put him out on the practice field, on a joint practice, a solo practice, one-on-ones, anything. I mean, it probably helps the offensive lineman to go against him in practice and one-on-ones, but pretty unnecessary there.
Why is he so good, real quick, Peacock? Why is Nick Bosa so good? Because when you just look at, okay, just from a pure athleticism, like testing, he's not the most athletic guy. He's not the tallest guy. He doesn't have the longest arms as an edge rusher, which people typically like, but he wins over and over and over. And I think because it's not this like sexy edge guy that it never looks like flashy. It's just he just kind of
He just beats you.
then it's like he's at the quarterback. And
Yeah.
it's like, dang, how do you just do that? It's almost like he's teleporting, right?
It looks almost too easy.
What is it? Is it just great technique? Is it what makes him like as great? Because he's great. And I think he's almost being undervalued by the rest of the NFL. I feel like we'll find out once we see where he's at on the top 100 list. But I feel like as great as he is, I don't think it's getting the acknowledgement as it should.
Cyber Jeremy says he eats Built Bars. That probably has something to do with it. A lot of protein intake for Nick Bosa and low sugar. I'm sure that is definitely part of it. But it all boils down to one thing, Crock. I'll tell you what that one thing is next and what makes Bosa so great. And it's a lot of things, but it all boils down to one thing. We will preview this Vikings game coming up in week 2, what we want to look for, and get into the chat a little bit with some questions. I think, Crock, you got a little rant about defensive backs that we'll get to next. But first, I want to let the folks out there know about Dave. Level with me. We've all been in that situation, right? Where at some point in our lives, a little light on cash, maybe you could use a little bit of help from your future self. And with Dave, you can. Maybe you need to put a few more gallons of gas into your tank and you don't quite have the funds for it. Or you get another save to date. You're supposed to travel. You need to go to somebody's wedding. You can't even afford a gift. That's where Dave can help. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, catch up on your bills, finally tackle all those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get that financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch, need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's Dave, D-A-V-E. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out the Peacock and Williamson show daily here on the network. Locked On NFL Draft daily here on the network, featuring my guy Eric Crocker, and Locked On Dynasty and Locked On Fantasy Football to get you ready for all those fantasy football drafts. Both shows available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Peacock.
Yes.
Hold on. Every once in a while I got to jump in because I see something in the chat.
Uh-oh.
We got T-Cal 2399 says, how much does one have to super chat to have you guys stop using JT Sullivan as a good source of what good QB play is? And I'll say this because I do sometimes hear that with people, and they can use me as well, right? Like, oh man, you weren't good. Like, how do you know? And it's like, you know what? A lot of times the guys that couldn't do know exactly what it's supposed to look like and what they wish they could have done. And a lot of times those type of guys like me, I couldn't rely on athleticism just to get to the level of football that I did, just to get to the NFL. It wasn't just pure athleticism that was going to get me there. It was all these other things. And I could see like, man, I wish I could do these other things with the technique that I have and like how much better I would have been. So I coach a lot of kids. I train a lot of athletes. And I'm able to teach them. And a lot of them I talk like, dude, you're way more talented than I ever was. Like, so do this. And man, you can be even so much better. So when you look at a guy like JT O'Sullivan, who went so far, I mean, he was a legit backup quarterback in the NFL for a good amount of years.
Yeah. And started some games for a couple different teams.
For the 49ers. And I believe it was Mike Martz.
When you are a human being that is able to start games in the NFL as a quarterback, you are in a percentage that you cannot call someone a scrub or whatever.
Well, he didn't, but I think that's what he's alluded to, saying you're using JT O'Sullivan as a source.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, most of the time those guys, because of how well, especially for JT O'Sullivan, who had to play for so many different offenses and learn so many different playbooks and whatnot, like that's the guy you want. He learned so much. He knew so much. He was around so much. And he understands what goes into being good, even if he quite wasn't able to be as great as he would have liked, because he didn't really have that next level step of athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, how many snaps did Bill Walsh play in the NFL? How many snaps did Bill Belichick play in the NFL? I mean, how good of a player you are has nothing to do with how good of a coach you are, how good of a broadcaster you are. And in fact, having the best ex-players doesn't always make for the best analysts. In fact, we've seen it. The guy who is the worst broadcaster I've ever seen has the most rushing yards in NFL history. So there's no correlation there. Coaches coach,
Smith?
Play, yeah. Coaches coach, players play, scouts scout, broadcasters broadcast. Right? People have their niches, and JT O'Sullivan's information is awesome, and he's good.
Yeah, shout out to JT.
Yeah, shout out to JT. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. There was something here. Vikings reporter said that Bosa was the most impressive player he has seen in person, and you asked me, Crock. We teased it. Bosa, I mean, he's impressive. Just when you see him, he looks like a superhero. You know, he looks like when you get an action figure, that's what he looks like. But it's effort. He puts in the work. He was ready to play in the NFL technique wise when he was a sophomore in college. You know, maybe even in high school. I don't know. Like he's that far ahead because of the effort he's put in, for the knowledge he has, the technique, and he has all those things. He has the athletic ability, but he's maxing out everything he has, even though he's not the most lengthy rusher. Maybe he's not as explosive as some guys, although he is pretty darn explosive. He's got power, he's got speed, but he's got technique, he's got a motor, he's got the drive to be as good as he can possibly be every snap. Doesn't take snaps off, and so he's just wired in a way that he's going to maximize everything he has. That's what makes Nick Bosa great.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles was non-committal today on Tom Brady's return.
See, I keep seeing that. I've never heard of someone just kind of bailing out and hanging out not with the team during preseason. That's never happened. Like if you're going to miss one preseason game, you're gone for a weekend, you come back, maybe. I could see that. There's the story about Dennis Rodman, right, where he went to Vegas while the team was getting ready for games. That's not this era either. So, yeah, and I keep seeing a bunch of people in the chat talking about this. Is there something else going on?
Adam Schefter just put that out.
Suddenly retirement? Well, what's the exact tweet from Schefter?
It just says, I can open up the ESPN article, but Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach Todd Bowles, non-committal on Tom Brady's return. He just left and is described as personal things. Todd Bowles was asked Thursday. He said, "We'll see. We'll talk about it next week. Not concerned about it right now. We are trying to practice against Tennessee. There's no definite date for me, but we'll check on it. We'll keep in touch and we'll find out." They have no idea. But didn't they say that? Now we can bring this up and we can kind of tie this into Jimmy Garoppolo, right, to bring it back to 49ers. But didn't they say that, we knew like he was going to leave. We just didn't know, we knew it was going to be after it and he wanted to give the younger guy some reps. Like, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense. He's training camp.
Yeah.
You got a game in a few weeks, like a regular season game. And Tom Brady is the most maniacal person ever in the sense of just timing, rhythm, being on the same page with everyone, making sure that everyone is firing on all cylinders. Everyone understands exactly what it is that he wants, and he's just gonna leave. And it's just like, we knew he was just gonna leave. Now that don't make too much sense.
We got Kyle here in the chat, says Jimmy Garoppolo to the Buccaneers confirmed. What do you think? I don't know if I love the fit, but maybe you get a late camp bidding war here between the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Deshaun Watson, obviously, it's the big story of the day, has been suspended officially now for 11 games. If you're the Browns, are you interested in Jimmy Garoppolo? 11 is a weird spot. It's not the full season, but it's more than the 6 games it was going to be after week 11. He's not going to be available till December. You could be out of it by December already. It won't matter what Deshaun Watson can do for you.
Yeah, that's tough, but how do you sell this? Because here's the one thing here. Jimmy Garoppolo could say, well, I'm not going. And then the whole trade would get reneged, right? So if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not going to Cleveland to be a placeholder for a guy for 11 games. Now you give me the full season and I get to show what I can do and I can lead a team to the playoffs and you give me that opportunity, then okay, sign me up. I know it's a 1-year thing, but I'm playing for a contract next year. But let's say the Browns are, they probably have a bye week, all right, 11 games. So after 11 games, they are 7-4 or 8-3, led by Jimmy Garoppolo, and they are in position, and they have a good roster, good run game, offensive line. They got a couple of receivers there, got a nice tight end, they got a legit defense. So it's a prime spot for Jimmy G. So let's say they are 8-3, right after 11 games. Now you're just gonna pull me, and this is my opportunity to earn a contract down the line? Like, dude, no, I'm not going there. So I wouldn't even go there if I'm Jimmy.
Yeah, it's not a great situation either. Bad ownership, clearly, bad vibes with that team. The Buccaneers could be very interesting. I don't know if he really fits like the Arians style of attack, but Arians is kind of off to the side. It's kind of still his team, kind of not. Is he better than Kyle Trask? I would think if you're the Buccaneers, you have Super Bowl aspirations. You're not going to roll with Kyle Trask if Brady does indeed somehow retire. This is a really weird situation. I want to go back here to Christian. He says Brady has been given days off in the past, but this is the first time he's taken a significant amount of time away from the team during training camp or preseason in 23 years. Forget Brady in 23 years. How about every player in the history of the entire league? You don't get time off during training camp and preseason. Doesn't happen. I mean, this is crazy. This is one of the oddest situations I've ever seen. And once it went past like, a couple of days or like a weekend, then obviously something else is going on. I'm not sure what it is. He already retired, obviously. So there's something there.
Yeah.
Very strange. Very strange. Jimmy G. There might be a home for Jimmy G yet. We'll find out. It could still get pretty interesting with some of these teams. And the report was going back to the Cleveland Browns, the report was that if Deshaun Watson is suspended more than 6 games, then the Browns would consider Jimmy Garoppolo. That was the report. That was the last report we heard that came out of there. So
you just can't. You can't do that. And then just considering the situation, right? And I don't know. You don't know. We don't know what's going on, right? But with what Deshaun Watson, like if Jimmy G, great leader, everything that we've known Jimmy to be, and well, aside from him not answering people's calls, but everything we've known him to be, great leader, all that, winner, all that good stuff. Everybody in the locker room loves him. You pull him at 8-3 for someone that was suspended for, what he's been accused of, and you like, oh yeah, all right, Jimmy, thank you, but nah, we're gonna go with this guy.
Yeah, it could get dicey. Yeah,
because that's your investment. So I get it from that like the business aspect of it, I get it. But if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, dude, I'm not reporting there. And if he doesn't report, the whole trade just gets reneged. Most people don't have that type of pull, but a guy who did in the past, Antonio Brown, he did a lot of weird stuff over this one offseason. But people forget this. Antonio Brown was traded to the Buffalo Bills. And I think he saw that and was like, I'm not going to play with this dude, Josh Allen, right? Because I think, Josh Allen then wasn't what Josh Allen is now. I'm not going to play with Josh Allen. I'm not going there. So then all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, Antonio Brown, he's still with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Jimmy could pull something like that.
The devil's advocate there, and we got to move on from this, but if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, if you go to Cleveland and you're 8-3 and you get pulled in week 11, you just made yourself a whole bunch of money when you're a free agent in the following offseason. Especially
you still think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's if that's your best chance to play, because the way Jimmy earns the most money and becomes a starter next year for somebody is he plays the most amount of games and plays well and is healthy. Where can that happen for you? Is there a better spot for him to do that in Cleveland? That might be, 11 games might be the best opportunity for him to start next year.
Yeah.
So,
if I'm Jimmy, I don't want that. But yeah, I mean, if it had to go down that way, if my agent's like, dude, just go. Who cares if you don't finish? Forget the dog pound. Then it's like, all right.
I'd much rather go to Tampa if I was Jimmy G. That's for sure. Yeah. So we'll see what's going on there with the Buccaneers, and of course, if he is released, I could absolutely see him become a Seattle Seahawk and might have an opportunity to start 17 games there if he's healthy. So we'll see how this turns out for Jimmy Garoppolo. But it continues to be interesting every single day. There's always some wrinkle, and of course, now there's a new one with Tom Brady, a no-show. The ultimate grinder, no showing during preseason in training camp. That's just a complete oddity. You know what? Brady might need some help. He might need someone to talk to, and you can find somebody to talk to with BetterHelp. Life can throw you twists and turns all the time. It's important to show up for yourself through it all. Sometimes you just need someone to check in with on a weekly basis. Make sure you're hitting the marks you want to hit for yourself every week. Maybe you've got major events going on in your life, and everyone can benefit from some therapy. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. And it's really easy. I've gone through it. You answer a few questions and they give you a therapist that meets your needs. And with therapy, it can take a few tries to find the right fit for you. So BetterHelp makes it super easy and free of charge to find therapists and change them if you need it. So if you don't like the first therapist you get, you can try another one. You can log into your account anytime, send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. You can text, however you like to do it. If you don't want to be on camera, if you do want to be on camera, if you want to have that personal conversation on the phone, you can do so. And getting therapy every week is as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or your phone. So visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. There are tons of success stories at BetterHelp, a great way to invest in yourself. And it's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available. And they have a very special offer for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Crock, I know you had a rant you wanted to go on, talking about training camp, talking about practices, talking about defensive backs, the former defensive back that you are. You don't like it when guys get bad-mouthed, when it's one-on-ones, the difficulty that's already there for DBs, as if they're going to be some perfect Deion Sanders shutdown player every single snap.
I think in general is maybe the expectations of the cornerback position. You can ask anyone, and the cornerback position is arguably the hardest position to play on the field from an athletic standpoint. Now, if you're talking about quarterback, like from the mental standpoint of getting everybody lined up, especially playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense, yep, quarterback, that's more difficult. But just having to react, it's like, bro, I have to react to what this guy is doing, especially in one-on-ones, but really just in general. There's so many scenarios where you get put in a kind of a vulnerable position to where you just have to figure out, how do I get through to win this rep, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people that are, I hate to be that guy, but kind of unqualified to talk about the position a little bit, you know? And I was talking about it on Twitter. I'm like, dude, I gotta go on a Twitter Spaces, or bring somebody on this podcast, or just do like this, just educational course on the cornerback position and everything that goes with this. So I already got one guy on board. I got my guy Darius Butler on. Darius said, I'm down. So I'm gonna get Darius Butler on. I'm gonna get a bunch of other guys, but just to talk about the position and what goes into it, because I watched this rep from Diamador Lenoir against Justin Jefferson, and I thought, hey, that's a damn good rep from the kid. But then I'm looking at responses like, oh, he's holding, oh, he just dropped it. And I'm like, but what? Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, that was a hell of a rep from the kid.
Yeah,
he got a perfect trail
against the best receiver in the league.
Yeah, I mean, perfect trail technique. The way I teach trail techniques, I teach my guys, hey, you put your hand on his back. You can grab the jersey a little bit, but not too much. You don't want to pull the jersey away from his body, but just kind of here. And it just helps you kind of control the receiver and be able to kind of flow with him. And once he makes his cut, you let go and you work to play through the hands. Well, Diamador Lenoir did that to a T. I mean, it was so beautiful, so textbook. And then you hear a lot of like the fans' comments on it. I'm like, y'all have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you have no idea. So I had to get that off my chest. There was another one where it was Trayvon Diggs. Now, not a 49er. He's a Cowboy. He's in practice. You got the Cowboys going up against the Chargers. And it was a back pylon play against Keenan Allen, right? And to me, like, that's how you have to guard that. And I just think a lot of the people, they just don't know. They just don't know that. So what he did was he's facing Keenan Allen. So he's kind of looking Keenan Allen like in the face. His back is literally to the offense, right? He can't see the quarterback at all. And you have to do this because if you turn and look on one of those plays where you got a guy running around the back line, once he stops or he goes the other way, if you turn and look at the quarterback, he's going to be wide open. You're never going to see him. So you have to have disciplined eyes. And when you're playing against Keenan Allen, he knows all the tricks. So what Keenan Allen do? He stopped, and you see Diggs kind of stop because he's like, the ball might come. I'm not sure. Can't see. And the ball just swoop. But Keenan Allen never gave any indication that the ball was coming. He waited. Then right as the ball came, boom, pops his hands up, touchdown. So it's really difficult to defend. But you got a lot of people talking in the comments and like, y'all have no idea what you're talking about with that. It's extremely difficult because if he does turn and look at the quarterback, receiver goes the other way, then he's butt naked, wide open for a touchdown. And you can't have that. You have to give yourself every opportunity to win. So between a lot of people, never gets his head around like that whole thing. And I'm just like, do you know what goes into being able to get your head around? Like it's not that simple. So that's my spiel, my one rant that I had to go on. I had to talk about it.
Crock, Gammon
get his head around.
Crock, Gammon says here that you're coaching cheating, just like the Seahawks coaching staff with your little talking about just a little grab. Just a little
grab. Now they did a little bit more than a little grab.
Yeah. That's not cheating. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, right?
Right. Oh man, Coach Dykes said that. Shout out to Coach Dykes. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. He was talking about the classroom, but I mean it pertains to the football field as well.
He's talking about the classroom. I love that too. What's the equivalent to just a little tug on the jersey when you're taking a test? When you got that college exam.
A little cheat sheet on the hand, you know.
Oh, okay, just a couple of notes on the hand. Okay.
Yeah, a couple of notes.
You're not cheating, you're not trying.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I love it.
Like think about it like this, right? Like people talk about like Donald Trump, like how didn't he pay any taxes or something like that? And it's like, dude, you gotta learn how to get around the stuff.
Like anybody out there is going to try not to pay taxes if they can. And so that's what anybody who's got a lot of money is trying to do. You go to any corporation, just like, how the hell does Amazon not pay any taxes? You know? All right. Crock, last thing here before we go, we got to get the folks out of here so they can go watch some preseason football. I know everyone wants to go watch the Seahawks get beat down by the Chicago Bears in a meaningless week 2 preseason game. Crock. Oh yeah. The Herbert throw to,
Impact. Yeah, I mean, it was a. Yeah, I heard it. I mean, I watched it with no sound and still heard the ball.
I mean, maybe if he got his head around, could have made a play on the ball. Just saying, no.
But you can't. You can't. At the moment you look, okay, don't get me started.
Well, that was also like kind of a half-assed effort. He was kind of like, "Hey, are we playing or not?" Like I didn't feel like he was even trying to shut him down there. He was just kind of like,
no, he was, but
playing basketball.
You have to be really patient in that moment. See, I know a lot about this because in the Arena League, they ran a lot of back pylon routes in the Arena League. And you have to be like, once you overcommit, they're going to use that against you. And they'll stop and you'll just keep going and I'm right here. So you almost have to play it kind of like he did to where it almost looks like, hey, is he trying? But he's just so relaxed in the sense of, I'm going to relax. I'm just going to watch. Okay, where is he going? Okay, he stopped.
Trying to get it.
Got my hand, you know.
Watching the receiver trying to get a tell when the ball's coming, then turn and make a play in that direction.
Right.
Is that what he's doing? Yeah. And the ball just got there too quick.
I mean, it was a. I'm telling you, I heard the ball. I watched it on mute and still heard the ball.
Crock, before we go, what's the one thing you're going to be looking for week 2 preseason game, 49ers Vikings Saturday?
Well, obviously there's no Trey Lance. I think that's the easy one. But I want to watch the guards again. All right, because it sounds like there's been a lot of trouble. Maybe it's been coming off the edge. Whoever's at right tackle, whether it was School or McKivitz, sounds like they have not been great, right? So I'm not even worried about him. He's not playing in the game, you hope. So I'm looking at the guards. How do they hold up again? They had a good outing last week against the Green Bay Packers. Cam Burford and Aaron Banks have another good outing, and you just want to stack those up. Now, again, probably not playing against any starters. But can you be good against the guys you're supposed to be good against? And then I would like to see how that transitions into week 3, which you probably are going to see all the starters for both teams. And then you get to see how they are against some starters. But right now it's just you're playing against backups. 49ers are counting on you to potentially be starters. Do you look like you're the starter?
Getting disrespected about my studio, Crock. They like all the gear you got in the background. My studio, I just moved. It's a work in progress here. I'm not done. I did get a new camera though. I hope y'all recognize that and like the look today. So yeah. I agree with you, man. Offensive line's important. I mean, that's the one thing I've been looking at all off season long, all preseason. And that's got to come together, man. It's such a huge piece for Trey Lance to be able to allow to develop into the guy he needs to be. He needs to be comfortable in the pocket. The 49ers need to help him out with the ground game too. So, and speaking of the ground game, I'm going to be watching that. The running backs. It's going to be no Elijah Mitchell. There's a fight for that running back too. And that pecking order at running back, Ty Davis Price.
Listen, Peacock. We've seen this. I feel like whoever we feel like is the RB1 going into the season, which it feels like, oh man, like Elijah Mitchell, he has that locked up, throw away the key. He's the RB1. And I almost feel like Kyle Shanahan's like, not so fast. It's George Mason.
Jordan Mason. Yeah, I was going to say that.
Like,
Jordan
what?
Honestly, they need to calm down with Jordan Mason too, because if he shows out too much, he's going to get snatched up if they try to sneak him to the practice squad. There's a few
I call him Jordan Mason, my bad.
George Mason's the university. Jordan Mason is the 49ers running back. Ty Davis Price, all those guys. We'll see what it looks like. To be fair, Croc, we had it right. It was Raheem Mostert who was the RB1 last year. It just lasted 2 carries before he got hurt. So, and
I think that's how it typically happens. And anything, again, I knock on wood, Elijah Mitchell, I talked about it on, different shows I've been on and saying, hey, this is a guy that needs to show that he can be healthy. And even in games where he played last season, he was banged up, really banged up though. Not just like, okay, got a little ache here and there. It's like, dang, this dude can't even practice because of his knee and his ribs and all this other stuff going on top of missing 4 or 5 games. Then you head into this preseason, you're like, okay, everybody's healthy, good to go. Then all of a sudden, little dinged up. And it's going to open up the door for someone else to be like, hey, man, I can kind of be this guy too, Kyle. And Kyle takes me as someone who he's not going to play any favorites when it comes to that running back position. He's going to play who, okay, you're out here, you're producing, you're doing what I ask you to do, just like he did. Elijah Mitchell had no business starting over Trey Sermon, but Trey Sermon wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And Kyle had no issues at all going with the running back.
Oh, yeah.
The 6th round pick.
Yeah. Kyle's going to go with whoever he trusts. Nothing but Niners wants to know, are we going bonus time? Do you want to hang out in the chat for a little bit longer?
Let's do it, man. We got a good 15 minutes before the
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Everybody hang out that wants to continue live and chat it up. We're going to end the audio-only podcast here. Appreciate everybody for listening to Locked On 49ers, making us your first listen every day. Croc and I are going to be back post-game Sunday to break down everything that happened Saturday in the Week 2 preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers. All right, Croc. Overtime. Let's go.
Can we bring somebody on? Can we bring somebody up?
Who wants to come in?
Nothing but Niners. That's got to be my guy, Mike. Mike, are you free? You want to come up? What's on your mind, Mike? Mike was one of the first people to say, are we going overtime?
Your guy, Khalil, is just giving you heck about coaching up somebody to grab a jersey. He says, I don't think Mitchell is hurt. I think Kyle's keeping him out on purpose. Hot take. I don't know about that. So
it's not so much a grab. Hold on. Let me demonstrate here. Got a Eric Crocker college jersey here. So ideally what you want to do here is as you're trailing the guy, you just put your hand right here and you just touch it. So don't pull away. But you just grab just a little right here. You can even just put your hand on the back. Even just a hand on the back, it just feels like you're just more in control. So just put your hand here. You might grab a little, but don't grab, right? So I'm just here, and I'm just following him. And once he goes this way, boom, I go with him. I can let go, and I break up the ball. And I thought Diamador Lenore did an amazing job of doing that on his rep.
That was a great rep. And look, he may have caught the ball too, but the play's not over until it's a complete reception. And it wasn't because Diamador Lenore came in and batted the ball out of his hands. So
right.
Good. I don't see how anybody would see that rep. And I wasn't on social media much today, so I didn't see anybody talking about that. And I'm surprised someone would see that and think it was not a good rep by Diamador Lenore. Against Justin Jefferson, man. Take what you can get. You got a PBU against Justin Jefferson, man. That's a great rep.
It was good. Mike, check your DMs now. We got Mike coming on. Shout out to my guy, Mike.
Send him a link? Okay.
Yeah, I sent him a link.
I think all fan bases feel this way. 49er Gang 916 says we never get respect from the national media. I think every fan base feels that way. I think the 49ers get a lot of respect. They get talked about a lot. I think it helps clicks to talk about things in a way that is like there's maybe something going on, like kind of like the whole negative Trey Lance thing all spring long. It was just a really weird
all
narrative.
spring long. What'd you call it? So this show right here, we're overtime, right?
Yeah.
Colin Cowherd is going overtime with the Trey Lance stuff. It's like,
he's taking, yeah.
He just took a swing at a practice that was like 2 weeks ago. He's like, wasn't good in practice. I tried to tell you. It's like, dude, that was hella old. Like, what are you doing? And he just put that out like today.
Yeah, I saw that, and I didn't read it. I just heard someone talking about it.
But outside of him, I feel like the 49ers have almost – I feel like I'm almost have to be like, hey, guys, pump the brakes a little. Not pump, but, you know. But there are a lot of people who have, 49ers, NFC champs, they're going to be in the play. Like, that's the team. Like, so I do feel like the 49ers right now with Trey Lance at quarterback, who hasn't played extended amount of time, right? He's never gone to the season. He's the starter. They're getting more love now than when the 49ers were 7-0, even 8-0 in the 2019 run. They're getting more love now than they did during that time.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts what's going on there. And it's funny because we don't really know what's going on with Trey Lance. We don't know if he's going to be good. We don't know if he's going to be bad. So it's really weird because I don't want 49ers fans to get too ahead of themselves and get too excited because there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some ups and downs during this season with Trey Lance in his first year as a starting NFL quarterback. There has to be, right? But then people think they know he's going to be a bust too. I mean, that's insanity. How would you even know that? And you can't base it on one practice. And I know somebody commented here, there's a lot of people talk about this with Colin Cowherd, and Trey Lance was dating his daughter. Cowherd was all about Trey Lance when the 49ers drafted him because he was in cahoots with his daughter. And
well, that's okay. Hold on. So there is a little speculation there.
Okay.
I would assume this speculation as well with the way that he worded it.
He was at his house, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at his house. And that's what he said, like, hey, he was at my house and I got to talk to the kid. Great kid, etc. Yada, yada, yada. Everything's awesome. And then you see his daughter and it's like, okay, I get it. Attractive young daughter. And all of a sudden he just soured on him. And so I would assume he had to do something with the daughter as well. Because here's the thing. You don't
the way that he's flip-flopped on him too. Because usually people just try to find things that confirm their original opinion. For him to be trying to find things now that contradict his original opinion on Trey Lance is super strange.
Right.
So there has to be something there. Something personal. Right. It feels personal to me. Cyber Jeremy says Nick Mullins tearing it up in Vegas. Oh, hell yeah.
Nick Mullins!
Yeah, Nick Mullins.
Not even drafted!
Mike's in the house.
Yeah, Mike is in the house.
You bring Mike on? All right, here we go.
Yeah, well, we gotta change the background.
Oh yeah, I'll change that up right now. All right, time.
What's up, Mike?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hey, real quick, I gotta give a shout out to Mike because I'm not saying if it weren't for Mike, I would have not got into all this stuff, but he was the first one that got me into this stuff. I will say that. Mike and Nothing But Niners, they brought me on to their platform on YouTube and everything and got me talking about 49ers football. So shout out to my guy, Mike. I got to give him his flowers. He's a pioneer in the game.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that, for real.
You got to give love to the OGs. What do you think? Are people too down on Trey Lance? People too high on Trey Lance? Where do you see it, Mike, this year?
I'm actually seeing a lot of both sides, but the truth of the matter is the negativity is what gets the interactions. It's what gets the clicks. And so I think that from a national media perspective, you guys were just talking about Cowherd, right? Like, if he came out and complimented Trey Lance every day, we'd be like, yeah, that's what we thought. No one's going to retweet that. No one's going to they are going to retweet it, but it's not going to do the numbers where the negative is, where you get the hate and the vitriol and the quote tweets and all that, right? So it's beneficial to be negative about the Niners. That's why the guy with the check mark that claims he was a scout, that's why he has this little, vendetta against the Niners, it seems, right? It's just anything negative against Lance, it's going to do numbers. So I think it's a smart thing to do if you are in the content creating business.
There's one of the guys on Twitter that's most vocal. I think there might be some mental illness there. I mean, there's just some, and I say that in serious, like, go get some help. Like, I say that with seriousness because, like, I'm worried about the folks out there.
Did you hear the song? Did you hear the song that he created?
Help. A song?
Oh, he created a TikTok song.
No, oh God, no! I don't want to hear that. Oh, God,
that's the old one, right? Like this is like from a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. It's terrible. You're not missing anything, BD. Like you don't. Don't
I'm not going to go searching for that song. That's for sure. What do you guys think? 60% passer for Trey Lance this year. I almost feel like if you're starting quarterback in the NFL, you got to be at 60%. Guys are approaching 70% now. On the regular. So 60%, I think that's a pretty good barometer. I think that's a pretty good aiming point for Trey, because I don't think he needs to come in and be a 68% passer like Jimmy G was.
I think he's 63%.
Yeah.
I saw the comments in there. Someone said, Crock, you seem a little reserved with Trey Lance. Now, I think Trey Lance has all the potential in the world. My reservation, reservedness, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm reserved because you don't know, because he just hasn't played a lot. But I believe that this team is a 10-6 team with him. Like right now, you tell me, like, if you had to guess, 10-6. Like I think they will be that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were 11-5 or something like that, or 10-6. I mean 10-7, and they could be 11-6. I think this is a terrific team. I think you have a great coaching staff, and I think Trey Lance does enough things that's going to contribute to winning football games. I also think that there's going to be a few times where he does things that contribute to losses as well. But my reservations for him comes from just the position he plays and just not playing a lot of football. And not just in the NFL. He didn't play a lot of college. I feel like he didn't play a lot of high school quarterback. Like, there's just not a lot there. So there's just going to be this kind of growing process in him just getting comfortable just throwing a football. Right? Like, there was an interception he threw today in practice that was behind Deebo Samuel, and then kind of like ricocheted off his hands, then ricocheted off somebody else, and it was intercepted. Well, he hasn't thrown a lot of passes. So he's still finding himself as a pure passer. And it will come. Right? If you tell me in 2 years from now, I'd say, goddamn MVP quarterback. But right now, I just think there's this process that he has to go through that other guys have had a little bit more of an opportunity to do. But even then, the 49ers, I still think they're going to win a good amount of games.
Yeah, he's going to be. I have no doubts that Trey Lance is going to be good. I think it's a good match with Kyle Shanahan, and there's going to be some big time plays, and it's going to be all fun in the end. But there's going to be some hiccups, and there's going to be some tough times. It's just going to be different tough times than we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo. So fans have to realize that it's not going to be all perfect all the time, and it's not. It wasn't perfect with Josh Allen, and Trey Lance doesn't have to be Josh Allen, but it's not perfect with Dak Prescott. People are trying to. So there's a certain percentage of the fan base in Green Bay that wants to drive Aaron Rodgers out of town because they didn't like what they saw in the playoff game. He can't win the big ones, so you're never going to. You're never going to be perfect. And you talked about how hard it is to play DB in the NFL, how hard it is to play quarterback in the NFL. There's absolutely going to be hiccups for the young man. Yeah. Mike, what are you looking for? What's the one thing you're looking for
especially in practices? You guys got me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I broke up there for a second. What were you saying about Trey?
Sorry. I think it's going to be more about what they're asking him to do, right? The very, very first open practice, his numbers were great, right? He was like 11 of 13 or something like he only had like 2 incompletions, and they said they came off the hands, and they said later on, like the details came out, that was the short and intermediate routes, right? Kyle's not going to go out there and ask him to throw the ball 30 yards, 40 yards every time he throws the ball. Those are the low percentage passes. So the majority of the game is going to be the high percentage plays and, the safer stuff across the middle, short and check downs and things like that, with a couple of the big plays sprinkled in. I think his passing percentage is going to be just fine. Like you guys were hinting around, he's going to be between 60 and 65% most likely.
Right. And I think, like, if he's, let's say, between 62 and 65%, like 11 wins for the 49ers.
Just don't be a disaster is really all he has to do.
I think there will be the disastrous games. Peacock, I watched the game last year. People forget this game. Josh Allen, right? Where would you say in ranking Josh Allen and where he's at, just quarterback rankings? Peacock, where do you have Josh Allen at?
Probably 2.
Mike, where do you have him at?
Top 5. I don't know if I got him 2.
All right, Josh Allen had a game towards the end of the year against the Jacksonville Jaguars where he threw for 100 yards, like 100 yards, and like they didn't even score a touchdown. They lost to the Jaguars. Like the final score is like 6-9. So even the best of them they can have a stinker, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a couple of those games with Trey Lance where it's just like, that wasn't good, right? But there's going to be enough to where you're like, all right, this kid is heading in the right direction. I strongly believe that.
Yeah. You got to remind that's sort of the reminder to the fans is like it can look bad. The 49ers kind of looked bad at the beginning of last year. They went to the NFC Championship game. There's going to be ups and downs if he has a bad game. That's why Jimmy needs to be gone because you can't have that security blanket and that thing just for fans to go crazy about. Oh, you got to put Jimmy back in because Trey Lance threw this game away and he was really bad today. It's going to be a learning curve, and development paths in the NFL for quarterbacks are definitely not linear. Terradome says Jimmy was over 65% because he threw 4 screens and 4 shovel passes a game. Yeah, I mean, he threw a lot of shovel passes, but Tom Brady threw 100 balls, had 100 completions every year to Wes Welker and Julian Edelman within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I mean, Josh Allen throws screen passes. Everybody throws screen passes, and that's smart. A passing game is an extension of the running game. That's the Bill Walsh way, right? So the 49ers should utilize that with Trey Lance, get him some easy completions. And that's just what Mike was talking about in practice. You know, you're 10 of 12 in practice because you're throwing some short stuff. Keep those chains moving.
I lied about the Josh Allen against Jacksonville. He actually threw for 264 yards, but they did lose 9-6.
Wow, terrible game. 264 yards, Josh Allen.
I know, terrible. 0 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah, see, not a great game.
Yeah.
Not a great game.
He actually was 63% on the season, which if you look at what he had done the previous season, I mean, that's kind of a down year.
So that's the thing with Trey that we need to see is Kyle's got to dial up some easy throws to him. You get him confidence, you get him going, you get him rolling, but then it's the big plays on top of that he could bring you. Play breaks down, you roll out, you find that big throw. We saw it last year with Debo. We heard about it yesterday with practice with Debo Samuel. We've seen it with Danny Gray, got the 4.3 speed. If you got a step, Trey Lance can get it to you. So it's the big plays on top of that, and they should focus on the short passing game for Trey this year. Pound that into his head. It's like, hey, get the ball down, get your check downs. Let's keep this drive going because throwing for 52%, but trying to make big plays all day might not really do it. And maybe some games you'll hit those, but a lot of times you won't. So there's still going to be a lot of screens and a lot of shovels and a lot of short stuff and some quarterback runs that are part of the offense. It's not just going to be all I'm bombing it to Debo and Aiyuk and Danny Gray all day for the 49ers offense.
Hey, last year for Josh Allen, regular season, not a great year. Right? Like you just looking at the numbers, but then he got in the postseason and went crazy. But regular season completed 63% of his passes, threw a lot of touchdowns, but 15 interceptions. Not great compared to what he had did the previous year. And it was almost like he kind of, I want to say came back down to earth, but you see how he started off his career, 52% passer his rookie year, 58% the second year. Third year, almost 70%. Then the next year, coming back down, 63% passer, but went crazy in the playoffs. So it's almost like, a lot of people made a big deal that, it's just got way more accurate. Then it was almost like last year. I was like, no, I'm actually kind of that same guy. But he's a playmaker, and that's what you kind of alluded to, Peacock.
I want to see. Mike, what do you think? What's that one thing you want to see from the 49ers this weekend?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually want to see the special teams improve a lot. I don't think that's a phase of the game that's going to do a lot of heavy rotation and things like that. Obviously, they're going to give guys an opportunity to make the roster. But with a new special teams coordinator, I think we kind of know what to expect from the offense. With the X factor being Trey Lance, we know what we're going to get from the defense already. It's the special teams unit that really concerns me. I was heavy on the Matt Ariza. I know that people think you don't draft punters and all that stuff, but that guy is a weapon. Like I
saw you tweet that out too, real quick. I saw you tweet
he
that.
hit an 80-yarder, didn't he?
Yeah,
80-yard.
Yeah. He's like, that's a weapon on special teams, right? If your team is, if you guys are late in the fourth quarter and your offense is struggling, but you have a phenomenal defense, someone like that can boom it down there no matter where they are, and then put your defense in an advantageous position to, try to make a play. And even if they can't make a play, now your offense is back on the field, 3 and out, good field position. he's going to be a weapon. I want to see the special teams just take a step forward. It was one of the worst last year, and we saw what this team could do if the special teams can hold their own. I mean, you look at that playoff game. The special teams is why we beat the Packers in the first place. So, the offense and the defense, the defense was good. Don't get me wrong. The defense was actually great that game. But the special teams just really had the other special teams number against the Packers. And that's something that I want to see more consistently. We don't have to have a blocked field goal and a blocked punt every game, but I want to see some good returns. I want to see great coverage, things like that. I want to see the communication, the special teams really step up. And it's going to start in preseason, especially with the new coordinator in the house.
All right, Mike, thanks for jumping on with this. I appreciate you getting the folks hyped in the chat as well. And always fun going in a little bit of overtime here on Locked On 49ers. All right, Croc, we got to get out of here. We got to let the folks go watch Bears, Seahawks, if that's the kind of thing they're into. I got to go have some dinner with the fam. So love having the overtime. One more quick comment here, and I see this one a lot when it pertains to Jimmy G, and now I lost it. Where'd it go? Basically, a lot of people ask, why would a team trade for Jimmy Garoppolo if they could just pick him up once he's been released? And my answer to that is, here we go. It's from D Estrada. And I get this question a lot, and it's like, okay, well, if you don't want him, then it's not a big deal. But if you actually want Jimmy Garoppolo, he might not sign with you when he's released. There might be multiple teams that want to go get him. It's going to cost you the same salary-wise. The agent's involved, Don Yee's involved. Whatever Jimmy Garoppolo would sign with your team in free agency is the same cost it's going to cost you money-wise in a trade, because they're going to get that negotiated. So that's going to be a part of it. So basically all you're doing is, like, if you actually want Jimmy Garoppolo and you think this guy might be able to be a starting quarterback for you, and it's important for you to get him on your roster, give up a day 3 pick. It's not that expensive to get a quarterback onto your roster to use a day 3 pick on it. You might get that back in a comp pick anyway, right? So that's why a team would trade for him, is because if you actually want him, if you were going to sign him anyway, that means you want him enough to pay for him. Then make sure that you get him now, because if you let him become a free agent, maybe he won't even sign with your team. So that would be the reason why. And the contract has nothing to do with any of it, in my opinion. Check the Seahawks for an offensive tackle. Maybe we'll be able to trade Jimmy for a right tackle. Yeah, both.
Man, they drafted Abraham Lucas at the top of the 3rd round, and it sounds like right now he's playing lights out. Right tackle out of Washington State.
They might have.
I watched a lot of him, Locked On NFL Draft. I was like, man, this is a legit early day 2 guy, and I thought maybe the athleticism, it could be a little weird, but it sounds like he's transitioned to the NFL just fine.
Yeah.
On top of drafting Charles Cross, who they drafted.
So they might have got their bookends for a decade in this draft in the 1st and 3rd round. That's so good on the Seahawks if they're able to do that. Although their 2nd round running back now has a hernia or something like that. Boye Mafe too in the 2nd round. It's actually not a bad draft for the Seahawks.
Yeah. Well, when you have all these damn picks,
those extra picks. You don't have Russell Wilson anymore, so we'll see. Who are they blocking for? They're blocking for Geno Smith. So how important are those tackles actually? All right. Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here. Croc, thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Thanks for everybody jumping in the live chat and going into overtime with us here on this end of the week episode. Jason Poe, put him in at center. I want to see him get some snaps. I want to see Jason Poe at center. That's another thing I want to see from the 49ers this weekend. Sounds like Zakel's getting a look and not Poe, but it's going to be fun. See who's making the team. Some roster battles happening, especially at the end of the roster for the San Francisco 49ers. And we'll be back with you after the game to break it all down right here. Locked On 49ers.